Go away! Hey guys, my name is Andy and welcome to my YouTube channel. Some stories end with answers. Others leave behind more questions than anyone can explain. Today, we are looking at one of those stories. So, let's get into it. Imagine living in fear every single day. Imagine answering your phone and hearing threats from an anonymous caller. Imagine finding disturbing notes outside your house. And imagine being attacked over and over again by someone nobody can identify. Now imagine reporting all of those attacks, threats, and text messages and having nothing done about it over 7 whole years. Now that is exactly what happened to a Canadian nurse named Cindy James. For years, she claimed she was being stalked and terrorized by an unknown attacker. Police investigated dozens of incidents, interviewed witnesses, conducted surveillance operations trying to identify the person responsible. But they never found anyone. 2 weeks later, she was found dead under circumstances so strange that investigators still can't agree on what happened. Was Cindy the victim of a relentless stalker who finally killed her? Or was there another explanation entirely? This is the mystery of Cindy James. Before we get into the case, let's talk a little bit about who Cindy James was. Cindy James was born in 1944 and lived in British Columbia, Canada. She worked as a nurse and was generally described by friends and colleagues as caring, intelligent, and dedicated to her profession. In the 1970s, she married a psychiatrist named Roy Makepeace. The marriage eventually deteriorated and the couple separated. What happened after the separation would become the center of one of Canada's most debated unsolved mysteries. According to Cindy, the harassment began shortly after the relationship ended. At first, it seemed like nuisance behavior, threatening phone calls, strange messages, suspicious incidents around her home, but over time, the situation allegedly became far more serious. Throughout the early 1980s, Cindy repeatedly contacted police. She claimed someone was following her, someone was watching her, someone wanted to hurt her. She reported receiving threatening phone calls at all hours. Some callers allegedly whispered threats, others remained completely silent. Then came reports of vandalism, broken windows, disturbing notes, and signs that someone had entered her property. Police investigated, but they struggled to find any links to a specific person. As the reports continued, many officers became increasingly frustrated. The events were alarming, but they were also difficult to prove. Over the years, Cindy also reported several physical attacks. In one incident, she was reportedly found unconscious outside of her home. In another, she was discovered with injuries that suggested that she had been assaulted. Friends became concerned. Investigators became confused because despite the growing number of incidents, nobody ever seemed to catch the attacker in the act. No witnesses, no arrests, and no clear suspect. At one point, police arranged surveillance operations. They monitored Cindy's movements, they watched her home, they attempted to identify anyone following her, yet the harassment appeared to continue, and still no stalker was found. As years passed, investigators began considering another possibility. What if there was no stalker? Some officers wondered whether Cindy herself could somehow be responsible for at least some of the incidents. The theory was controversial. Many of Cindy's friends strongly rejected that theory. They believed that she was genuinely terrified. They pointed to her injuries and emotional distress as being very real evidence of something going on. Others would argue that certain events were difficult to explain if a real attacker truly did exist. How could someone repeatedly assault a victim without ever being seen? How could police surveillance fail to identify a culprit? The case became very, very polarized. People seem to fall into one of two camps. Either Cindy was a victim of a serial stalker, or something else was going on behind the scenes. Then came the event that changed everything. On May 25th, 1989, Cindy vanished. Days passed without answers, friends and family grew worried, and search efforts began. Nearly 2 weeks later, a shocking discovery was made. Cindy's body was found near an abandoned property, and the scene raised more questions than it answered. She was found bound, a nylon stocking wrapped around her neck. Toxicology reports later revealed significant amount of drugs in her system. The investigators immediately faced a problem. The circumstances appeared suspicious, but they were also difficult to interpret. Police examined every possibility. Could this have been a murder? If so, who was responsible? After 7 years of alleged stalking, many thought that the answer was obvious. The stalker had finally succeeded. But investigators still couldn't identify the suspect, either in the stalking or, obviously, the murderer. There was no clear evidence pointing to one singular person. Others suggested suicide. Yet that theory also had some problems. Critics questioned how somebody could administer large quantities of drugs, bind themselves, and end up in the position that Cindy did. Neither explanation seemed entirely satisfying. The more investigators looked, the more complicated the case became. Alright, now that we've got the facts of the case, let's get into some theories. Theory number 1. Cindy was murdered. Supporters of this theory believe Cindy's reports were genuine. They argue she spent years desperately trying to convince authorities that she was being stalked and harassed and assaulted, obviously, and that somebody was targeting her. They point to the threatening phone calls, physical injuries, and escalating incidents. According to this view, an unknown stalker had harassed her for years and years and years, and then finally succeeded in killing her. The biggest challenge to this theory, however, is there was nobody ever identified at all, not even a suspect, in who was stalking Cindy, and no conclusive evidence tied somebody to her death. Theory number 2. There was no stalker. Others believe at least some incidents may have been self-generated. They argue that investigators repeatedly failed to find any evidence of an external attacker, despite extensive efforts. Some psychologists and investigators argue that Cindy may have been experiencing extreme emotional distress. According to this theory, the harassment campaign may have not been what it appeared to be. The biggest challenge? Many incidents remain difficult to explain completely, and friends who knew Cindy often insisted that she was genuinely terrified. Ultimately, authorities could not reach a definitive conclusion. A coroner's inquest later classified Cindy's death as an unknown event. Not murder, not suicide, an unknown event. Even after years of investigation, nobody could confidently say what exactly happened to Cindy. More than 3 decades later, the mystery remains unsolved. Was Cindy James the victim of one of the most relentless stalkers in Canadian history? Or was there another explanation hidden beneath years of fear and confusion? The evidence seems to support both theories. And that's exactly why this case continues to fascinate investigators, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts to this day. Because unlike many mysteries, this one doesn't end with a clear answer. I'd love to hear your theories in the comments below. Ultimately, I just hope that her family can get the closure that they need, and this case can one day be solved. Who knows, with the current technology we have these days, we might be able to solve it. The internet has solved many mysteries in the past. Maybe we can solve one right here on my YouTube channel. Let me know your theories in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe. It really does help me out, and it's free, so you might as well. If you like seeing my face, you can see it more often by pressing that little bell as well. I will see you all next time. Bye!